All right, all right, all right. Welcome to another episode of the New York Power Hour here on Best Damn Sports. I am your host for the evening, Ash, and we've got Peter, our own baby squid, who is ecstatic over Nolan McLean, and we've got Ram, the Prince Man himself. We have got the crew all together tonight. What are you guys doing, boys? I know you guys are excited to talk some Nolan McLean. How are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, I mean, how can we not be excited for once, Ash, right? We don't always get too much to be excited about, but for once, and how you doing, Mac? This is a big one, right? This is not a flash in the pan. This is a touted prospect who showed up, and his three-start debut with the Mets might be, I mean, statistically, it's one of the best the Mets have ever seen. So we've got that working for us, right? Peter, I know this is your guy. You must be feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, let's just get into it. Today he had 8 innings pitched, only gave up 4 hits, no walks, which has been a huge problem for the Mets last year and this year. 6 Ks and only 96 pitches thrown, so a pretty economical outing, I'd say. On top of it, this is we've gone on and on in shows past about how the Mets, with the exception of David Peterson, have not been able to go six, and if this is what we're going to get out of him, like, obviously I know there's peaks and valleys. Like, he can't pitch this good all the time. I don't think his lows are going to be that low, but like, this is the type of things that can turn around your season. And obviously we have, yes, I am live from the basement. Obviously we have another young pitching phenom potentially coming up starting Friday, and Jonah Tong, who I'm very excited about as well. But Nolan McLean is, I think, an amazing story. He's only been pitching full time for a little over a year now. When the Mets drafted him in the third round, he was a two-way player, but he wasn't a starter. He was a reliever. So Ram will get a little bit more into that. I don't want to steal what he said pre-show, but like, sky's the limit for this kid, and I think we have the potential to get another great generation of pitching in Queens.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I know that in our group chat that some people were giving you guys hard times about the old like Pulse for Isringhausen and Paul Wilson
Yeah,
stuff.
I'll,
But
I'll take
that's
up
like
that
30
debate.
years ago now.
I'll
So
take up that debate anytime. I mean, because look, that started because, and this is something I said early in the year, and I'm not gonna back down from this. That I said that the Mets are now one of the best prospect pitching development teams in the entirety of the majors. And I caught some slack for that from a few people. And now we've read
I
that
don't know why you would
ESPN.
catch slack for that though, because like
I
it's
personally, I
true.
think it's objective. Look,
I
I
hate the
talk
truth.
about it
I
because
hate the
this is
truth.
my team, right? This is my team. So when we do something right, I want to be able to talk about it because I'm well aware of the history of the Mets. It's not like we get it right all the time. So when we do get something right, I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy. Cohen has invested in a pitching lab for the Mets, right? And it has worked. I talked about the idea of the when they move guys like Buto, they move guys like Tidwell because they were confident. The mood in the room was that we can move Buto, we can move these type of guys because we can make more pitchers like them at will, right? And Nolan McLean is one of these examples. Whereas Peter said that he was a two pitch pitcher, he was a reliever, right? He came in as a two-way player where there was power in the bat and people didn't know necessarily what they were going to get out of him. He's now a six pitch pitcher. He threw six pitches in today's 8 shutout innings, right? And granted, four seam, two seam, cutter all qualify as different pitches. They're fastball variations, sure, right? But 5 of those pitches were above 10% usage. Legitimately, this is an amazing story for Mets pitching development. If you can take a two-way player whose bat was probably the one they thought was going to survive, turn him from a two-pitch reliever to a legitimate ace frontline level starter with 6 pitches, and the movement on some of these pitches are ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. You know, like, we don't have the express written consent of the MLB, so we can't, like, show you the sliders and the breaking pitches, right? But to tune in also to what Peter was referencing before about, like, the length, right? I'm going to bring up a tweet from a friend of mine and Mike, and you can see here, I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the air when I said I was excited about this debut that Nolan McLean's going to break the 6-inning streak. And so before Nolan McLean made his second major league start, the Mets have gone 62 games with David Peterson being the only starter to get through 6 innings. And now he's done it in back-to-back starts. And he might have been able to done it his first. And he might have been able to throw a shutout tonight if they let him go back out there. Right? But at the end of the day, I mean, for me, it's just stunning because we now live in an era where we kind of expect people to struggle out of the gate. And so if he looked good and we were looking for signs of like silver linings and things like that, we're like, okay, this was good, this wasn't, but he's going to pick it up, he'll be fine. It would be reasonable, right? It would almost be what I expected. But there's nothing, I mean, this is today's stat line without any kind of spritz and glamour and glitter on it, right? You just went out there to the division leading Phillies in the game that, you know, this is a sweep game, let it be known that, like, they needed to win this game. It's clearly in their head here in Citi Field. They're clearly losing their minds. Nolan McLean went out there and just threw 8 shutout innings like it was his job, like he's been doing this for 10 years. He was cruising through 5 or 6 through only about 50 to 58 pitches. I mean, legitimately, this was a great start. He almost complete game shut out the division leaders. This is a big deal. Nolan McLean is a serious thing for the New York Mets, and it's a huge win for their development so far. Now, I mean, we still got a month left. We still got a lot of time, so it's not like I can proclaim him as some kind of majestic, like, savior of the organization or something. I'm not going to go on that limb and do the Generation K thing they did 30 years ago, right? But this is so big to see him come up and break the Mets out of their kind of doldrums, to go out there, make it look easy, right? And again, to piggyback on something that you keyed on and it's on the screen, Peter, 0 walks, right? I made a comment in the Discord that it certainly just said that if he can keep the walk rate where it is, if he can keep these walks down, this is, I know you were being good and you're being calm because you're just as jaded as me, Peter. You're like, hey, there's ebbs and flow, there's peaks and valleys, right? But if he can keep the walks down, this is who Nolan McLean is. You know, it's not like he's out there striking out 16 and we're like, oh, this is his career game. He was out there just soft tossing, break, a good mix of things. The league will adjust. They'll be able to lay off certain pitches, sure. But this is who he is. It's not like he's somehow elevated from AAA to the MLB. He's just showed that he belongs. And I'm very, very impressed.
You know, you do mention a little bit, yeah, the Mets do have, some low points in their development of players, but they've developed some of, or have had, maybe developed the wrong word, but some of the best pitchers in MLB history have come out of the Mets organization. We're talking about Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Dwight Gooden. Those are great names, great players that have came up through the Mets system. Nolan McLean is the first pitcher in Mets history to win each of his first 3 career starts. I know wins isn't a pitching stat, but the fact that on a time where the Mets were floundering on both sides of the ball, pitching and hitting, they won. Not only sweeping the Phillies was super important, but they won They won the tiebreaker with the Phillies by sweeping them tonight. So if they are able to make this turnaround, they now have the advantage over the Phillies, which I think is super important.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't win. They can't win at Citi Field at all right now. Ash, I don't know what you're about to say, but
no, I just wanted to back up the point about like the Mets. I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and man, you just totally lost my train of thought. The pitching, the depth with the pitching, and so many of these guys are homegrown. Like, I know you're not trying to look forward to next year, but my God, like, I don't even know what you're going to do with all of these arms, because you're going to have Manaea, you're going to have Senga, you're going to have Christian Scott back, who I think everybody's forgetting about. I'm as high on that guy as anybody. But then you have Tong and McLean. And then do you move Clay Holmes back to the bullpen? Like,
And you didn't even mention, and this is not the message to you, you didn't mention David Peterson, who is arguably pitches our ace this season.
And then
right?
you got Stroke down in AAA. Like,
this is what I'm excited
and Jack
about.
Winninger at AA is one of my favorite, kind of like under the radar guys. Like,
here's what I'll say about
all these arms.
Here's what I'll say about Senga. I think Senga at this point in his career has shown that if you're going to have him there, you do kind of need to have 6 starters because he needs.
I just named off like 10 starters.
I know, but I'm saying like that's part of how you're going to keep all those names up there. Obviously, Montas is there. I think you ship him. Just buy him a boat ticket to wherever he wants to go. Enjoy your the rest of your career somewhere else.
Package some of these guys and go get O'Neal Cruz.
I think to this idea though, the excess of pitching, right, is we talked with Luke a couple weeks ago when he asked me about if I'd rather have like Joe Ryan or Nolan McLean going out to the start, and I was like, I know it sounds crazy, but I want McLean because of the context, not because I thought he was better than Joe Ryan in that moment, but because I think that there's something about the aura right now the Mets are picking up in this homegrown thing, right? We've got these pitching players that you could have an all homegrown rotation of the Mets next year. Like on paper, it is very viable at some point. You could see a 5-man rotation due to injuries, due to magic, whatever it is, that has Peterson, Sproat, Tong, Scott, and McLean. And all 5 of those are Mets developed pitchers. And, I guess it's fun to dunk on the Mets from 30 years ago. I get it. That's fine. But the fact that this is a conversation that's not coming out of some Mets fans' basement and is a legitimate thing that we could actually see 5 homegrown, good, effective starters right now. It speaks to why MLB Pipeline thinks the Mets pitching prospects are best. It speaks to why ESPN says this is the number 1 development system right now. This is no longer a joke. This is real. This is happening, folks.
I do want to slightly pump the brakes on one part of what we were talking about with the depth, because a couple months ago we were on here talking about how much pitching depth the Mets have, and then fast forward a month, the Mets had no pitching depth. So that can change quickly. But yes, on paper, the Mets are poised next year to just have wonderful pitching depth.
No, again, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you on the fact that pitching depth is the most fickle thing in the entirety of the league, right? But one thing that we both talked about at that time was that we knew we were getting results out of guys that weren't necessarily going to last, right? Like we knew that the Griffin granted, we didn't expect Griffin Canning to blow his Achilles out, but we knew that the Griffin Canning situation was overachieving, right? We knew even the Clay Holmes situation might have been overachieving, even though he gave us some strong innings the last time out as well. But at the end of the day, like I expect a lot more out of like McLean and Tong and these guys. Now, and Tong is debuting on Friday, which is another thing. I haven't been this excited for a Mets pitching debut since Nolan McLean. So this is great. I get to do this a lot now. This instead of having to wait 10 years, I've got to wait like 10 days to watch these guys debut. So Tong coming up is a big deal because some publications actually believe that Tong is the better of the 2 pitching prospects with him and McLean, which is a funny thing only because McLean has found so much immediate success that it's like, well, what do you do for an encore, Jonah Tong? How do you follow this up after Nolan McLean on the heels of Tong starting on Friday night says, I'll just give you 8 shutout innings against the Phillies, who are obviously in a little disarray against the Mets because they're fine against everybody else, but they haven't won a game. And I think this is now 9 straight at Citi Field, if you include the playoffs. So they're not feeling good over here. It's clearly in their heads, right, Peter? I mean, let's pivot over to our friend over here. In Bohm, if you want to take this one off for anyone who wasn't aware of what was going on over there in Citi Field.
So yesterday, I believe the Phillies were still leading at this point, Ram.
Yes, they were.
Yes. Alec Bohm caused a 20-minute delay because of 2 microphones out in center field on each side of the batter's eye. And this is backed up by the Philadelphia Phillies postgame show. Yes, let me tell you, Mets fans, watching that postgame show after the Mets beat the Phillies is a delicious treat, and I highly recommend it. Confirmed that since at least 2017, Both of those microphones have been there. So they were there all playoffs last year. They've been there forever. Karen Bohm gets all in his feels and demands the Mets take it down. They do. And then the Phillies, from that point on, do not get a single hit the rest of the game. And the Mets come back and win it via a Brandon Nimmo walk-off. So just what a beautiful time. Last year we had Grimace. This year we have microphones. We have Sesame Street characters were at the game today. Elmo and Cookie Monster were in the stands watching one of Major League Baseball's best young pitchers pitch. What an honor for them. Probably the highlight of their week. So it's funny. It's a very long season. It's a very weird game. I feel like the Mets and the Phillies kind of they flip-flopped a little bit here. The Mets all year, what were we talking about? They can't hit with runners in scoring position. They get inconsistent. They don't get length out of their starters. The Phillies have been a train all year. They have some of the best bats in baseball. This series, the Mets couldn't stop hitting with runners in scoring position, and the Phillies they couldn't. So baseball's a funny game. So hopefully the Mets can continue this momentum against the Marlins, because that would be a pretty Mets thing to do, to sweep the Phillies and then lose the series against the Marlins. So hopefully they keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned the fact that I think it's the last 12 games or so their hitting has come back to life, right? And this has been kind of a lineup-wide situation. And so I think it's been interesting because I've been waiting to see like the way that the people react to it, because there have been people who have been really, they wanted to fire this guy, right? And I was like, listen, at the end of the day, the Mets will be fine. They'll bounce back. They're pretty unlucky. And now we're good. I haven't heard anybody want to fire Eric Chavez in the last 12 games. I have heard the Mets talk about the fact that Chavez talked to them about changing their approach with the fastball and changing their hitting approach. And they mentioned that on SNY that, hey, he tried to simplify some of their fastball hitting approaches, and suddenly guys who were on the trash heap like Brett Beatty are hitting and things like that. And
so you're telling me he changed the approach of what he originally was doing, and things are getting better, so he stopped being bad and is now being good.
So you want him to like not change anything? You want to be a one size fits all hitting coach?
No, listen. I mean, listen. I'm willing to.
I think he listened to the criticism.
I'll admit that I was wrong. I will admit that I was wrong about Eric Chavez. If you admit you were wrong about Brett Beatty,
I will admit that I love watching Brett Beatty hit the stuffing out of the goddamn ball. So if he continues to do this, I will not hate him. I very much enjoy watching him hit the stuffing out of the ball. This is not a joke. I obviously want him to succeed while he's on the Mets. And honestly, even when he's not on the Mets, if he gets traded, because he's not a bad person. If anything, he's a pretty decent dude. But I'm amused as hell, man, because winning cures everything, right? All like putting the Chavez and the Brett Beatty stuff aside, right? Like the entire lineup is hitting. Luis Torrens is going deep. Hayden Sanger's getting bunt singles and making moves, runners in scoring position.
He got like 3 RBIs last game.
I think what it is just we need to play the Phillies more often.
Agreed.
We just need to play the Phillies more often. We play the Phillies. You seen any of these Eric Chavez or Brett Beatty sucks tweets? No. Everyone's having a great time making fun of the Phillies, right? And it's been great.
Well, it certainly looks like that series next month could turn out pretty big between the Mets and the Phillies.
Yeah, it's a 4-game series in Philadelphia.
The Mets could very well win the division.
Yeah, there's two very significant series for the Mets coming up in September. Obviously, the one with the Phillies and then the one with the Reds, right? And even if they kind of sputter the rest of the month, they need to make sure they show up in those series. This is a good deal, at least, to kind of, because we're in the Phillies' heads. I mean, they were talking about it. That's that you can tell by the players talking about it. They're coming to Citi Field and they're seeing ghosts, pal. Like, I'm enjoying this. They do not want to be here. You know, Peter brought up the idea of these microphones are being removed, right? And the humor in that is that the Mets completely outproduced them. So not only did they not get a hit the rest of that game, right? The Mets scored 10 unanswered runs. And then today, they did not score a run again after removal of the mics, and the Mets are fine. So it's almost like the Phillies did the Mets a favor, and I'm grateful for that much. You come into Citi Field, and suddenly everything's fine. Mark Vientos is an opposite field contact hitter now. The catching position is going to be okay. And on top of that, we were talking about some homegrown guys, so let's pivot to something that Peter put up here, too, that I think is also a significant part of the reason we've been winning, because they were counting on this guy. is Mark Vientos. And Mark Vientos starting to hit the goddamn stuffing out of the ball again. He got a laser for a home run today, and he's been turning on the ball. He's been going the opposite way. I mean, I don't expect this guy to hit near 300, but he has been on fire so far. And this is the glimpse of the Mark Vientos that we believed in, right, Peter?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that the Mets turnaround hitting wise and Mark Vientos' turnaround kind of happened at the same time. He's always been a very important player for the Mets. Obviously, you guys know how much I've talked up Brett Baty, but like when Mark Vientos' ceiling is higher than Brett Baty's, and you want to find a way to get both of those guys bats in the lineup, especially when you have somebody like McNeil who's very versatile, who can play in the outfield when you have a little bit of outfield depth issues, because you don't want Marte out there all the time because he'll get hurt again. And you know, Mauricio, I give a huge pass to. Even then, David Stern said that his hand was kind of forced. It was way earlier than they wanted to call him up. So it's fine that he's not doing much of anything right now, especially when guys like Brett Baty and Mark Vientos are stepping up huge for you.
Yeah, I think this is the guy that I was pretty critical of over the last, couple of, I would say 5 or 6 weeks on this channel, is because this was a bat that the Mets were absolutely counting on to be a source of production in the middle of that lineup. So if he's starting to get back to where he was the second half of last season, watch out, because they needed a 3-4-5 type hitter in addition to Soto and Lindor and Pete Alonso. They needed another middle of the bat type of hitter to get in there and produce for this team. And I don't think it's coincidental that you're seeing them take off right when he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the key to all this, is these homegrown guys. Obviously, with Steve Cohen, he can afford any player, as he showed with Juan Soto. If he wants him, they're going to be a Met. But you don't hire David Stern as your president of baseball operations, not think that you're going to not try to get as many homegrown guys in there as you can. And with, the payroll thing as it is, like, you can have your Juan Sotos and your Lindors and these big type contracts when the rest of your lineup is filled with homegrown guys.
Yeah.
It's a perfect recipe to success. It's what he was missing with the Brewers. They couldn't afford to have these to sprinkle in these big time contracts, these big time power bats, and with their homegrown guys.
Yeah, I mean, the goal of Stearns being here with the Mets is essentially to do what the Brewers did, but better. And that's not an insult to anything out there. It's just the idea of allow him to develop a team the way he developed the Milwaukee Brewers, but give him more resources than he's ever had in his life. So you can add a Juan Soto into these guys and make a real dynasty type long-term World Series contender team. That's my goal out of this, and it's lofty as hell, but it's what I talk about all the time. That's why I get excited about these prospects, because if the CBA still stays something similar to what it is with these years of control, you're going to have these guys under contract and affordable contracts for a long time in McLean, in Tong, if Scott is as good as advertised, who I like as well, right? Spro, Peterson's still here. We're going to have to keep him now. He's making a run for getting a bigger contract, but this is fun for me. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I guess I kind of enjoy the idea of just watching homegrown players succeed. I don't think it matters where you're from. If a team, you watch them develop as prospects, you get attached to them, you want to see them succeed. So I would rather see Mark Vientos succeed than us trade for like a random third baseman in the offseason. I want him to be the guy. It's the same with Brett Baty. Like, if these guys continue to play well, Francisco Alvarez, the same thing. You want to say, okay, those are our guys. We developed them. Like, this is a mark on the prospect development on the hitting side too. And this is a big deal, because you mentioned Vientos picking up and the Mets picking up, Peter, but like, to your credit, Baty's been hitting pretty well, right? And it takes away from the fact that Nimmo's been injured and not really doing much. It takes away from this fear we had that Alvarez going down for a bit could have really stifled the Mets, because he came back up and was jump starting the Mets for a bit. And so when he went down with injury, the mood in the room was really low, because it was this fear of like, oh no, we just got our spark plug and now he's gone. And this could be a really bad thing for multiple sides, because he's also our top catcher and calls good games. Now, I mean, if we can get through this stretch, granted, I know that Alvarez got hit on the hand today, so
It was
we
his
don't
other
know.
hand, though.
Yeah, so we don't know if it was precautionary yet. My understanding, and I can't confirm anything, but from what I have been told, it was precautionary and not like, oh my God, he broke his other hand or something. So I'm hoping he'll be fine. But if we can get past this little 10 to 15 day period without Alvarez and survive with Hayden Sanger and Luis Torrens as our catchers, this is a big deal. Right. And Lindor has picked up his second half bat again. Soto's been doing what he's been doing all year. Underrated for a lot of people because he's being paid $1 million. So I understand it might seem like he's overrated, but we're okay with getting what we're getting out of him right now. He's not bad. It's just overpaid, maybe, but he's not overrated. So
even if he was hitting like ridiculous numbers, he'd be overpaid.
Right, that's what I mean. Like at the end of the day, he's still getting a crazy contract, but that's what the Mets want to do. But the point of it being is that if the offense can fire on all cylinders like this, I mean, we just need some starts. I mean, Clay Holmes, I know we talked about him moving back to the bullpen, but he had a very nice showing his last time out as well. I don't expect him to stay in the rotation. This is not a guy I trust in the playoff rotation, but they're getting their options together. Jeff Pontus of Baseball America actually was interviewed today. And he went out and he said that if I'm starting game one of a playoff series for the Mets, I'm starting Nolan McLean. And I understand that feeling. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand that feeling that there's some aura. No, I agree with you, Peter. I'm not necessarily jumping on doing it right now, but you can't ask for more from the homegrown guys right now. And that's what we want. We want to be able to say this is winning cures all. We don't have to sit here and have petty arguments. The Mets they went into the series, I think, 6.5 down, and now we're 3.5 down from the Phillies. So that's in 1 month, that is not at all an insurmountable number, especially with a 4-game series coming up with said team. The Mets have at least just got to be feeling good that they showed up at Citi Field and swept the Phillies. That's what they needed to do when they did it.
I think you were spot on with a lot of what you said. But the homegrown guys, yeah, I mean, look at the Mets. Objectively, Juan Soto and Lindor are a better player than Pete Alonso. But who do Mets fans love? Pete Alonso. He's the homegrown guy. We saw, we were there when he broke the home run record. The love poured on Pete by that entire stadium. It was really cool to be a part of that, and it was like that only happens to homegrown guys. It's. As far as Clay Holmes goes, I know he's been up and down, but if you told me at this point of the season he would have a 3.6 ERA, I would take that 100 times out of 100.
Oh, 100%. And I was wrong about it, if I'm being honest. I was very much like, I don't know how I feel about this. And the Mets were pretty confident. And I was like, I don't know, man. I've watched Clay Holmes. I'm a little nervous about it. And, now it's just the arm fatigue where he's going to have moments, and that's fine. But it's like you said, 3.6 ERA into September. I mean, that's pretty good. And he's given 5 innings a lot of the times out. That's kind of what you're hoping for from your back-end starter.
Yeah, now, obviously, but I feel like that was the plan originally. Come playoff time, he's going to be in the bullpen. And as far as, from his Nolan McLean starts, like, you could see starting a guy like that for the first game of a playoff series, but baseball, it's you got to think of the locker room and stuff like that. David Peterson has earned that start, and I feel like you would piss off a lot of guys in that locker room if you just gave it to McLean.
No, I know it makes me sound like a homer too, but I agree with you. If I'm starting game one right now, if my game one started for the Mets right now, because Senga hasn't looked the same since the injury too. Especially the way he's pitched this year, it's got to be David Peterson. David Peterson has put his goddamn heart on the line out there. I mean, I think they mentioned it today outside of the McLean 6 innings thing, and Holmes went 6 as well, a recent outing, but it was all Peterson for 62 games. Peterson was the only guy to go into the 8th inning for the Mets this year, and he's gone in there 5 times. I mean, and this is legitimately like a very special season for David Peterson. He might finish with an ERA under 3 if he can kind of keep himself steady throughout the rest of the season, which nobody would have expected because they weren't giving this guy enough credit. Very underrated.
I don't know. Peter was one of the higher guys on Peterson of anybody that I know. So kudos to you, Peter, for being right about David Peterson.
Can I make a bold prediction for the Mets if they make the playoffs?
I would hope so.
Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong will not be starters for the Mets. They would be bullpen guys specifically for Senga and Manaya, basically, 2 starters pitching a game together. That's my bold prediction. That feels very Stearns-esque.
I can imagine them kind of playing it out this way, especially if they look at the numbers. Like Sean Manaea has been able to give you like 3 elite innings every time out, and then he's getting busted up in the 4th and the 5th, clearly because he's not 100% back from his injury. So I don't see an issue with the idea of saying like, all right, we're going to give you a Sean for 3, and then, but I got to be honest with you, and I don't think what you're saying is wrong or crazily bold. If McLean is starting the rest of the season, and this is the type of work that he puts out, he's kind of forcing your hand.
He's got to be in the rotation.
Look, again today, right? We just faced the Phillies last year in the playoffs. We just faced essentially a Phillies playoff lineup today in Citi Field, and he just went 8 shutout. I'm giving him a start. I'm not giving him game 1, but I am giving him a start.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But if there's one thing David Stearns does not do, it is have somebody force his hand. He's going to stick to the plan no matter what. And you know what? So far, it's worked. So I can't doubt him.
I mean, I've said the same thing verbatim. I've said I want him to stick to the plan. I like that it's working, but I think the hand gets forced here in a different way, because like this is, and again, that's considering the fact that this goes on for another month, right? Like if he has 1 or 2 bad starts in September and he slows down, then the question isn't really a question anymore, and you're 100% right. But if he continues pitching this way through September, right, there's got to be, like, clubhouse intended to, like, they've got to be sitting there thinking about their boys. They're starting to think this is someone that can make a difference. The mood has changed since McLean has been up. And
I think the pitcher that could come in and be electric in that bullpen is Brandon Sproat. This is a guy that has been rumored for a long time now as potentially being moved to the bullpen. And he's been super effective as a starter. But what a way to bring a guy up and let him, get his toes wet in the big leagues by coming in and pitching that 6th and 7th inning, piggybacking off of those elite starters, like Peter was saying, which wasn't a terrible idea, but not forcing those other guys to go deep into games. But then you could bring a guy that's electric like Brandon Sproat in to pitch, say the 7th inning, and then you turn it. And I realize Ryan Helsley's been a disappointment since he got to New York, but this has been one of the better relief pitchers in all of baseball for the last 4 or 5 years now. So if you had a guy that a 7, 8, 9 of Sproat, Helsley, and Edwin Diaz, I mean that's like nasty boys stuff. I mean,
let's not disrespect Rogers there.
What's that?
Let's not disrespect Rogers out there. He's been very good since he's been brought over.
Yeah, exactly.
He's incredibly underrated.
I mean,
Helsley is supposedly tipping his pitches.
This could be an elite bullpen.
I don't know if you heard, but Helsley is supposedly tipping his pitches, and he is a 2-pitch pitcher. So if he's tipping his slider, right, and he's only fastball slider, they're just locking in the fastball and hitting him. So I'm not as panicked about Helsley as I was before because they feel like he's tipping his pitches. Fine. Figure it out, because I saw Luzardo earlier this season. They were freaking out because they said he was tipping his pitches. He's back to at least being relatively effective over some long inning spans. So I feel like Helsley will be okay. But with the idea of Rogers, and one thing I will also mention that I think is interesting, I have seen the Mets and Mendoza go to this Diaz for 2 innings thing more than once this season. And I got to be honest with you. I know it's a little psycho and it's not something that's like a long-term strategy, but I love it. Like, there are some games where I feel like Mendoza's hit that button and he's like, we need this game. We're going to Diaz for 6 out. I don't give a shit. And it's worked. It's worked really well, because it happened, I think, in the McLean game where I think it was like McLean to Soto to Diaz for 2 innings, and he shut him down and did it again a couple times. They tried to see what they can get out of Diaz. His other outing against the Phillies the other day was 2 innings, but only like 22 pitches. And so there's some options, I guess, at the end of the day for the Mets, and it's starting to feel like they might have something coming together. If Helsley can figure it out, and he's got about a month to figure it out, because we'll need him to make the playoffs, but you give him a couple outings to try to figure this one out. If he can, just the idea of like Helsley and Rogers and Diaz towards 7, 8, 9, right? If you've got a guy that can go 6 in Peterson, a 6 in McLean, if you've got Sproat coming out for multiple innings or Manaea for multiple innings, game by game basis, this Mets team can do some damage, and they can be a pain in the ass. So there's a lot of what ifs here, and there's a lot of consistency issues that are going to come down to really, can we do it when it matters against the Phillies and the Reds, and can they keep it together? But the Tong debut on Friday, I think, is going to be a big one because McLean came up with, even if we don't want to make it seem that way, there was obviously a lot of pressure because there was some of the fan base hoping he'd be a savior. Now McLean has set the bar so high that, like, Tong could go 6 innings, 1 run, and it almost seems like a disappointment, right? So it's kind of funny because we'll see what happens. They're also distinctly different pitchers. You know, Tong relies on a lot more movement. He relies on being Tim Lincecum, essentially, just kind of crazy, like that Tim Lincecum build. I'm excited, though, because they are equally as high on Jonah Tong, if not higher. A lot of publications are saying that think Tong is going to be a better pitcher. That it's crazy to me that this could happen. You know, that we might have McLean go 8 shutout this week. We have Tong on Friday. We have Peterson on Saturday. This could be a really, like, the vibes have changed for the Mets week going on right now off their pitching if they can keep this up. I mean, Tong is starting against who on Friday?
I have not looked
Cabrera,
at the.
I think.
I have not looked at the pitching matchup, but I wanted to highlight this because you mentioned that they have strong opponents in Cincinnati and Philadelphia still to come.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'm looking at the Mets schedule over the next couple of weeks, and it's kind of a gauntlet. And I think this weekend actually is kind of a trap series because Miami has actually played outside of their games against Atlanta, where they gave up an inordinate amount of runs. Over the last couple of months, the Miami Marlins actually played good baseball. And their rotation, like Sandy is pitching like Sandy of old. Yuri Perez is pitching like the dominant ace that we thought he could be when he was coming up through the minor leagues. And Edward Cabrera has been really damn good.
Really good. Mm-hmm.
So, Ram and Ash, you're gonna love this. The Marlins haven't announced their starter
on Monday.
It's Yuri and Tong on Friday, right?
Yuri Perez versus Tong on Friday. On Saturday, it's Edward Cabrera versus David Peterson.
Yeah, and you got.
I mean that's a gauntlet.
Alcantara is pitching Thursday or Sunday. I don't know the rotation off the top of my head. I'm sure, but you know,
probably Sunday, but it's unannounced.
Yeah, so we probably have Alcantara versus. I mean, I know Senga. Thursday is what it is, but you've got Perez versus Tong, Edcap versus Peterson, and Alcantara versus Senga. That is absolutely a trap series, and the Marlins historically are really fucking annoying. Like they always are thorns in our. I'll never forgive them for breaking up John Main's no-hitter. But it's backup catcher Hoover hitting a goddamn grounder to third.
I saw a tweet that somebody said that the NL East is the weirdest division in baseball because the Phillies can't beat the Mets can't beat the Braves, the Phillies can't beat the Braves, and the Marlins just take random games from everybody.
No, I think when
you have a pitching staff like that, you can do that.
I have called this. I think I could go back like 2 months on this like Power Hour where I kept saying this is the stupidest game of rock paper scissors that I've ever seen because the NL East is the stupidest game of rock paper scissors ever. Where the Mets can't beat the Braves, but it's rock paper scissors, Mets, Braves, Phillies, and the Nationals and Marlins just come in and piss us off every now and then. And
oh, by the way, you have the second best record in baseball coming up on Monday.
This is gonna be fun. The Marlins series, it's a 4-game series too, so we'll see what happens. I mean, it's Holmes, Tong, Peterson, Senga. I'm not sure what the intent is with Holmes down the stretch, where if they want to limit his innings, because obviously he's showing some signs of fatigue, and if he says he can go, they're gonna push him, but I don't know how much longer they're going to try to continue to push him. I know they must have an innings limit in mind just because of the fact like this adjustment is hard for anybody. And even for guys like Peterson and Tong, the thing is that Peterson, of course, is exceeding his career pitched innings, and Tong is going to be making his first start. Senga's still kind of working back from injury. The point that I'm making here is that, I guess to swing it back to say something nice about McLean again, the 8 that he gave tonight was incredibly significant because this is probably going to be a bullpen heavy weekend one way or another. And the fact that he could give them a full day of rest, essentially, just Brooks really going out there for a couple outs and a couple pitches, that was a big deal because they were taxed in this series against the Phillies too. I mean, Edwin Diaz was available tonight, but he just went 2 innings, 22 the night before. And Brazoban got optioned for Kevin Herget because Brazoban had an MRI. He's healthy, but they're optioning him anyway because it's in the option year. They're going to be bouncing around the bullpen for the next couple days anyway with Tong coming up. So we'll see how it works. I assume that Herget's going to get some innings on Thursday intentionally so they can option him for Tong on Friday. They're going to play the Little Stearns game, which is fine. But we got a bullpen heavy weekend coming up against the Marlins. So we're going to need everyone to be able to – you got to take the momentum off this Phillies series and do something with it, right? Because if you can take 3 out of 4 from the Marlins, sweeping them would be beautiful. But if you can take 3 out of 4 from the Marlins and you get a good start out of Tong, and then coming in on Monday, that's a McLean start again. Right, and so it's McLean going against the second best record in baseball. Wouldn't have it any other way right now. This is kind of fun. This could be fun Mets baseball going into September.
And especially since you're talking about the bullpen and hopefully the starters can get you. The Mets' last off day was August 18th. Their next one that they're scheduled is September 4th, and then from the 5th to the 14th, you don't have another day off. So it's going to be tough sledding there for the Mets. And especially those 2 series. Like, I know the Detroit Tigers are very good, but the 2 most important series right now, you have kind of back-to-back. You're at the Reds and then you're at the Phillies. And depending how that goes, that can either cement or absolutely kill your chances to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is where you need the team to be healthy and figure it out. And if they've learned how to pitch 6 innings again, thank God. Because getting through that stretch of 62 games where it was only David Peterson giving you a break was really, really rough, right? And I've got to believe that Senga has a few more good starts in him, that he starts to adjust. I want to believe Minaya does too, even if I know they're not 100% healthy. I do feel like the Mets are kind of like piecing it together to get through the year. But if Tong is good enough to give you 5 to 6, if he can give you outings like McLean tonight, I mean, I don't need him to go 8 shutout. It would be brilliant. But as much as the Marlins pitching staff has been a bit of a very strong source of why they've been able to be good, their hitting has been uneven, and there are still a few nobodies in that lineup. So I do think that a Friday night home game for Jonah Tong against the Marlins is actually a pretty decent place to go out there and try to go get him and get those like first game jitters out of the way and knock out some guys. And it does feel good because against Perez, you got to think like these guys know exactly who each other are. You know that he's going out there against Yuri Perez and thinking young arm versus young arm. I got to show up. Like the adrenaline's going to be there anyway. So I think if he gets through the first few innings without walking people and he kind of stays steady, we're going to see a really good performance on Friday. It's the same thing with McLean. I just need these guys to not get jitters and walk people. Stay off the walks. You're going to be okay. It's the key to simple pitching. It's the key to what the Mets have been dealing with all year. Don't walk guys, right? Go after them. Let's see what happened. We saw McLean go after guys today, and it worked out well. Alec Boehm was staring longingly at home plate and had to sit there for 3 straight outs as he couldn't make it there. Clearly, everything's in their head. The Marlins, of course, I think it's the opposite, where they just love to play spoiler for the Mets. So it's going to be a gritty series, but it couldn't be happier sweeping a series from the Phillies. With McLean performing well, Diaz performing well, all the young guys coming together to hit with Alvarez not being there. This is a big deal. Right now, at least in this moment, it feels good for the Mets. And I mean, right now, do we have the wild card right now?
Yes.
Right? So we have the last wild card right now. So
and the Reds are losing.
You're 4 games up on the Reds now. I mean, this is starting to look pretty settled.
Well, it's going to come down to that series, right? It's going to come down to that.
Them sweeping would kind of put that upside down.
Well, and it's interesting to me. There must be something in the water in New York because you guys, both the Mets and the Yankees, were scuffling. I believe both teams went like 2-8 in a 10-game stretch. and we were on here just belaboring how bad both teams were playing. And now, a couple weeks later, you've got both teams now on winning streaks and really starting to have things click on all cylinders. The Mets pulling away in their wild card, standings, and the Yankees as well, putting some separation now between them and the Mariners are between them and the Royals. But really, you're looking at the Royals because they're the first team out. And now the Yankees are up, like 4.5 games on the first team out of the playoffs in the American League. So both of these teams are starting to play some good baseball at the same time, right after both teams were really scuffling. So it's weird how they're both kind of in sync in that regard.
Yeah, ebbs and flows have been similar throughout the season, right?
Absolutely. The Yankees have won 5 in a row. That's, like you mentioned, they are 4.5 back from the division, and they're a game and a half above the Seattle for the second wild card spot. So things are definitely looking up in Yankee land as well. Today they put an absolute wallop on the Washington Nationals. Who else but Trent Grisham led off that game with the home run?
No, I will, but speaking of the home run ball, right? Not just to torment Ash here, as Jurickson Profari 2 runs today, but the idea of the Yankees have been winning with the home run ball. They have been, I think they're the only team in MLB history to hit 9 home runs in a game in the same season. It's happened this season. They have 9 homers in a game, which is insane, right? But they were teeing the hell off in these series. They went over there, they're facing the Nationals this series, right? And they have just destroyed their pitching. Like they have been teeing off, and it's been everybody got on the action today except for one shortstop who will be named momentarily as we transition to that conversation. But Ben Rice, Cody Bellinger, Giancarlo Stanton is hitting massive rocket dingers as he continues to stay healthy. Aaron Judge getting in the party, right? Ryan McMahon, new acquisition, hitting home runs. If you look at the recent home runs over this Washington series, the Yankees needed the Nationals like we needed the Phillies. They just beat up on the bad teams and just started teeing off on these guys. I also realized that for some reason that I don't know why I've never joked about starting Max Fried with the battery unit of Ben Rice. Like, why haven't we had like a fried rice like situation going on there? Why have I not done that throughout the season? Very disappointed in myself when I looked at the log today. But Chris asks, starting Davis Martin tomorrow versus New York is a bad idea. I mean, look, I love Davis Martin. I've actually been in the beginning of the season. I remember having a discussion because I drafted Davis Martin and I was talking with, it might have been your commissioner, Steven, who traded for me for Davis Martin. And I was like, Davis Martin's my guy. And I like him. And I remember people in the league were like, who the hell is Davis Martin? I'm like, you'll know who he is. He's a good man. Davis Martin's a good guy. But I'd be nervous starting him against the Yankees. I'm not going to lie, because the home run ball is how you get to Davis Martin. And the home run ball has been flying for the Yankees as of recent. They were 7-3 going into tonight in their last 10 games, same as the Mets. And it has been, that's how they've been winning it, right? But also not to be, I suppose, like, how do I say, thrown to the backside here, but their pitching has improved a little bit too, have kind of steadied. Luis Gil coming back has very quietly helped them out. He threw a pretty good start out there too. And they've tried, for the most part, they're starting to fire on all cylinders. One of the things that isn't firing on all cylinders, unfortunately for them, though, is Anthony Volpe. Today they had a 11 run or something like that, third inning, 7 pitches. I think one of the worst in Major League history. The last time that happened was before StatCast in like 2003. I think it was the Marlins. And the only reason they got out of the inning was because Anthony Volpe got out 2 out of those 3 outs. And we've talked a lot about the much beleaguered Anthony Volpe on this podcast because they haven't really been able to figure out what to do with him. We did get a question today from one of the guys that he calls in sometimes in the Discord in DFAV, and he asked, Volpe's on pace for a 2020 season, and would it be the worst 2020 season we've ever seen, right? And so I'll bring up some Volpe stats in a moment, right? But, Ash, we don't get to pick your mind enough about this, right? What's your stance on this Anthony Volpe thing? What do you think they should be doing?
I think that in the offseason, they need to find a new shortstop. Like, this guy can't play defense. He's got like an 80 something WRC plus. I don't know the exact number, but it's in the 80s. So he can't hit. He can't play defense. This guy is not a starting shortstop on a World Series caliber club. I honestly am perplexed that he has been given as much rope as he has. I did see a couple of games. I believe that Jose Caballero actually started a few games in the last week, so that was interesting to me.
Jose Caballero has like 45 steals, by the way. I did not know that. I was looking at some numbers the other day, and I'm like, look at this guy doing some utility work, by the way. Much respect to, if I was a Yankees fan, I feel like I'd be rooting for Jose Caballero. But yeah, he's getting in there and playing some games at utility. Ash, you're right, because they're starting to see that there is an Anthony Volpe problem, because this is what's in front of us right here. I mean, WRC plus with bad defense of 84, as you were alluding to, Ash.
And if he gets to 20 home runs, he's still got a sub 400 slugging percentage. Like, this is not a World Series caliber shortstop. I don't think next year.
That's not a
I don't think he's their
caliber
starting shortstop next year. In 2026, is he their opening day shortstop?
I don't think he should be. I don't think he should be.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the first time the Yankees have done things that we've been screwing with and not to do. Luke Weaver comes to mind.
I don't know why the Yankees hate Luke Weaver, but I'm not a Yankee fan, so I can't wax poetic on that. But this is starting to become a rough one because, look, you can understand. You look at the 2024 numbers, right? If you're an F4 guy, 3.5 WAR, 12 homers, 28 stolen bases, 243, 87 WRC plus. Nothing special, but you're not like calling for his head, right? This season he might go 2020, but the WRC plus is not improving. And his glove, he looks like he's had the yips out there so many times. I think he might lead the American League in errors, right?
He does lead the American League in errors.
I mean, where he's trending, I don't know if he's in the league in 3 years. Like, this is that bad. I don't know if he's going to be a Major League Baseball player in 3 years.
I think it's a tough one too, because you can even see, like, all right, this is what he's done over this span of 3 years. He's obviously young. He's 24 years old, so I understand why people have kind of wanted to pump the brakes on like getting. But you look at here, like even his rookie year, 2020 season, 209 average, 1.9 WAR. It feels like he did get a lot of hype that might have been a little too early. There has been, I think, a lot of love thrown the Anthony Volpe way because, I mean, they wanted to love this guy. And I get it. We talked about the homegrown player phenomenon, right? I can understand wanting to love a homegrown shortstop for the Yankees, right? A third baseman comes up for the Mets. Peter and I want to love him. We know he'll be in the shadow of David Wright, but like we want to see something like that happen. And so it's got to be a tough phenomenon. He's got really, really big shoes to fill. Defensively, not so much, obviously. I think he might be at least on par with Jeter defensively. But I think that offensively, he's struggling here because
he's awful.
Especially in a favorable home ballpark. It's tough. And I wanted to touch on DFAB's question because he made me want to go digging for a worse 2020 season. And so Volpe is 5 steals and 2 homers away. So the anticipation here is that he will get there. I mean, I forgot that he himself had a 2020 season in 2023 that was not so impressive because of the 209 average. Now, and again, to your point, Ash, even in that season, 383 slugging. So it's not like he was sitting there like really like hitting and doubles and things like that too. He was still kind of just getting those home runs by. The one season I could find that might have been worse, so I will do this for you, DFAB, because I care, was Ruben Sierra. So Ruben Sierra's 1993 season, he had 22 homers and 25 steals, 390 slug, and he had a negative 2.6 F4 in that season. Now, this is WAR from 1993, so obviously it comes with a grain of salt. But
and I will bet he was designated hitter a lot. I would have to go back and look, but my hunch here is that he was a DH a lot.
Yeah, so I can give you that DFAB as like a worse 2020 season that occurred there. But it's rough. I'm making jokes. I'm laughing because again, the Yankees are getting contributions from a lot of their guys. They're getting contributions from even Giancarlo Stanton. We talked about him just the other day on here, and I like him. I think the power is still there. He's batting over 300, which is insane because it feels like he's going to be this hired gun that can come in for like 2/3 of the season, but like still produce. And that's probably fun. But if they continue to hit at this rate, it's going to be an interesting AL East race down the line, because I think going into today, the Red Sox won and the Yankees won. So I think the Red Sox are still one game ahead of them in the wild card. And the Jays also won, so they're going to hold their lead over them. I think they've got a couple games over these guys, but let me double check that before I'm crazy. Yeah, the Jays have 4 games on the Red Sox, 4.5 on the Yankees. So we're looking almost guaranteed at 3 playoff teams out of the AL East, but that division is going to be a big deal, right? I mean, you've got Chris is over here, hating on the Blue Jays' happiness, but I just don't. For me, I don't think the Red Sox are going to contend for the division, because as much as anyone wants to talk nice about things, trading Devers does not make you a division contender. At the end of the day, I saw the graphic earlier in the week where some people were saying, oh, the Red Sox are one of the best teams in baseball since trading Devers, and the Giants are one of the worst. And it's funny to talk about it because of the trade, but realistically what's going on there is that since June 12th, Brian Bello, Garrett Crochet, and Luis Giolito have been some of the best pitchers in baseball. Bello and Giolito have top 5 ERAs in baseball since around that time of the trade, and Giolito has been very effective. And so obviously it's because of the fact their pitching has kind of figured it out, right? And it's very possible they can do this, but God doesn't like trading away Rafael Devers, I don't think. So I don't think they're getting that division. I just don't. Yeah, Giolito, Bello, and Crochet have been doing pretty good for you guys, but I just think it's funny because it would be nice, I think, to have a power bat in the middle of that lineup to supplement the idea of Roman Anthony. And yeah, I see you mentioning it here. Aroldis Chapman is having a ridiculous year for the Red Sox, right? He continues to.
Well, best closer. I didn't realize that the Red Sox got Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, I'll take Edwin Diaz over Chapman. But I mean, I know you're saying Bregman has been off too. It would have been great if you still have a guy in the middle there who can match 30 home runs like Rafi Devers, in my opinion. I don't know how much I believe with the clubhouse cancer thing. I think the Giants have a lot more deep-seated issues as well over there about figuring things out, and power goes to die over there for some reason because they cannot produce a 30 home run hitter. I don't know what devil magic curse they made to get their World Series in the years that they did, that they had to trade off not being able to have a 30 home run hitter. But what I was going to ask you guys is that, so we've got about a month left, right? Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Red Sox. Do we think we see any clear favorites pushing out of the AL East, or is it really going to come down to that last weekend?
Yeah, I don't see a clear-cut winner here. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch.
To me, I still think Toronto has the edge. But while we're on the subject of Boston, Ram, can I show you a jump scare that I didn't even realize this man was on the Red Sox?
Let's shoot for it. I'll remove this for you. Hang on.
Thank you.
Well, and I'll just jump in here with one more comment on why I don't see a clear-cut favorite. Yes, Toronto is up 4 games on Boston and 4.5 on the Yankees, but Toronto's run differential is only 60 runs, plus 60, whereas the Yankees' run differential is plus 119.
They traded for him, Peter, by the way, because I'm basing off the fact that's former Mets starter Steven Matz, right?
Steven Matz. I was like,
yes,
the hell they traded.
They traded for Steven Matz at the deadline. It was actually one of their deadline moves. He's not a bad reliever. He can't start, but he's not a bad reliever.
He's been an okay starter in the past.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh my God, he's on the Red Sox.
So, but I was going to pull up the schedules here because I'll bring them up in a second. I do think it's going to come down to the Toronto's pen is going to cost them games. Games are going to be cost by not having Rafael Devers. I don't at the end of the day think you can't move off. Like, I don't believe in this clubhouse cancer stuff because I have heard of these guys like hazing each other and being assholes to each other completely. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I don't think he's that big of a clubhouse cancer. I think at the end of the day, that lack of like power hitting could be an issue down the line. I think people want Toronto's pen to cost them games, but their pen has been surprisingly good. Little has been effective. Yariel Rodriguez, a guy that I really like, that Cuban starting pitcher who's coming out of the pen for them, has been secretly very effective for them in late innings. And he's not getting talked about with a lot of love, but Yariel Rodriguez has been very good and part of the reason they've been doing good. But the schedule is actually what I thought was interesting. I was going to try to see if I can pull up like some of their stuff for the rest of the year because I'll bring up the the Red Sox and the Yankees ones, because there are some tough series for these guys throughout the year, right? Like I'll pull up the Red Sox one first, right? This is the Red Sox September schedule and what they're looking at, and you guys are gonna immediately see the things that I'm seeing, right? So let's take a quick look here at, you see the Guardians here, but we go on. They've got a home series against the Yankees in the middle of the month. They play the Blue Jays on the road, and then the Tigers to end out the season. It's not fun. Like this stuff is, you see the Yankees again for 3, you're seeing them at home, but you're seeing the Blue Jays on the road, and then you're finishing your last series against the Tigers, who have been doing pretty well. It's not a fun situation for the Red Sox, right? And I'll pull up the Yankees schedule as well.
In defense of the Red Sox, that last series against the Tigers, considering they're 9 games up, probably not super worried about that. Probably not going to see any of their big guns pitching wise.
Oh, I think they will, because the Tigers are going to get a bye in the playoffs, so they're going to keep their guys fresh.
Fair point.
That's what I was thinking of, right?
Sorry, Chris.
And so here on the Yankees, I think considerably have an easier schedule. I'll pull that one up here too. So this is the Yankees September schedule. You can see that they've got their series with the Jays. They've got a series with the Sox and the Tigers, but they finish off with the
Twins, Orioles, White Sox, and Orioles, man. That is a cakewalk to close the season.
After they survive the whole the Yankees Red Sox thing, I think the Yankees have struggled against Boston. Chris is correct. That they have struggled against Boston this year, right? It feels like they are now in a situation where this is a half and half type of schedule to me, right? Because you've got the Astros, you've got the Jays, you've got the Tigers, you've got the Red Sox. So these first 4 series of the month for the Yankees are tough. But then you've got the Twins, the Orioles, the White Sox, and the Orioles, as Ash said. That's a pretty cakewalky type of schedule for the second half of September for the Yankees. And the run differential that you were kind of alluding to there, Ash, right? They've already got an easy schedule ahead, and they've been able to put up some good run differential. It does favor the Yankees, like, getting through if they can survive this Astros, Toronto, Tigers, Red Sox stretch. Yeah, it's very possible that if they can get through that, because they should be able to cruise against, I mean, granted, they're not going to win every game, but the Twins, Orioles, the White Sox, and the Orioles again, especially finishing at home for the Yankees, I mean, that's about what you would want if you're looking at going down the end of the line for the division, right?
Yeah, that's pretty soft. And that means they put up that run differential against a stronger part of their schedule.
Right. To close it out too, because I have it here for the sake of it. I'm also going to put up the Blue Jays schedule just so we can have that for comparison. I do think the Yankees have the easiest one, but this is for comparison what the Blue Jays are looking at in September. So they do get some similar teams. Yeah, they got the Reds. They get the Yankees, they get the Astros, the Orioles, the Rays for 4, the Royals, Red Sox, and the Rays to finish out. So I would say that the Red Sox might have the toughest one of the mixes of the schedules, depending on where they face these guys, right? And the Yankees and the Blue Jays I think the Yankees might have the easiest of it. The Royals might still be in contention. At that point, we don't know for sure if they're going to be fighting for that wild card spot. So that series could be pretty important too, where they try to knock somebody out. And essentially, I mean, this is going to be a dogfight till the end of the season, folks. I think that's what we're looking at. I don't think we get a clear winner until that last week of the season.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to watch as it comes down. If the Yankees were to sweep that series against the Blue Jays in early September, I could very well see them winning this division. That close to the season, I mean, they're going to win 3/4 of those games the last 2.5, 3 weeks of the season. So, like, that's that is just a big difference maker, in my opinion, between these 3 teams.
I think so too. Peter, do you have any thoughts on this as we wrap up what we're doing today?
I completely agree. I think it's Yankees have the easiest schedule. Red Sox have the hardest, and Toronto's in the middle there. However, I do still think I still think this is Toronto's division to lose. That's my I think it'll you'll get 3 teams out of the AL East in the playoffs, but I think Toronto's going to hold strong.
No, makes sense to me. All right, so let's get this off the screen here. No more schedule. It's because we have hit our hour. We haven't given as much love to the Yankees, but what do you expect out of a Braves fan and 2 Mets fan, if we're being honest? Right?
I'm still mad about Jim Leyritz. Stop it.
It's all Luke's fault. Blame Luke.
Yeah, if Luke was here, we could have talked about the Yankees, or Kenny. Where'd Kenny go?
No Luke and no Kenny, and no replacement Yankees fans coming up here. So I think that's what we're gonna get in terms of the evening. So since we've hit our hour, gentlemen, Ash, do you have any final thoughts for us as we wrap up our New York Power Hour tonight?
Yeah, I'll stick kind of with the Yankee theme. I was kind of looking through some of the AL MVP race today, and what I thought was interesting is that you have Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh both at 7.3 FWAR entering today. Don't know how that has I don't know what either of those players have done today, but entering today, having been tied in FWAR, I think that's going to be an interesting race to close out the season between those two. I wonder what Cal Raleigh's odds were entering the season. I would love to see what that was, but him breaking the all-time record for home runs in a season by a catcher has been thrilling, and basically carrying the load of that offense for Seattle, and then Aaron Judge just being Aaron Judge. So this is going to be a fascinating battle to close out the balance of the 2025 regular season. Is that MVP race in the American League?
I agree. And by the way, I've been favoring Raleigh mainly because I'm a bit of a Yankee hater, but I also think that a switch hitting catcher hitting 50 home runs, I mean, he's on track to pass Ken Griffey Jr.'s record for Mariners home runs in a franchise year. I give him the MVP. If he's breaking Griffey's franchise home run record as a switch hitting catcher for Seattle, you're giving him the MVP. That's my take on that. Peter,
and by the way, I never want to hear anybody complain about Seattle's batting eye again after the season Cal Raleigh's had.
Yeah. I thought it was bad, and apparently Cal Raleigh heard me and said, no, I can fix that. We're good now.
Yeah. Peter, what do you got for us tonight?
So, 2 things. First thing, me and Ram, known on the Discord as pretty big David Peterson guys. So much so that we will be in attendance in Citi Field to watch our boy David Peterson play. So that'll be very exciting. It's going to be the second game I've watched with Ram in a short period. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. Lindor bobblehead night. Love free stuff. So yay. But the main point I wanted to close on, and honestly, at the beginning, I thought it was a joke or a little bit of coping, but it feels like the Philly fans are being serious. I've been hearing a lot of the Mets are cheating accusations from the city of Philadelphia lately, and I think it's crazy. Like, they want to talk about the Mets home away splits this year. Well, look at yours, Philadelphia. You have a losing record at home too. So, like, it might not be as extreme as the Mets, but you still have a losing record at home too. Like, you need to be more like Mets fans. There's a tweet from somebody, Fitz GSN, that I truly agree with. The Mets never win in Atlanta, but you never see us accusing the Braves of cheating. We just act like adults and say they're performing black satanic rituals in the clubhouse every game. Listen. The Mets kind of own you right now. That's okay. Mets, I know Mets fans don't like to bring it up, but like, we've had collapses against you guys. Listen, it goes both ways. It's a rivalry. It happens. But right now we own you. Mark Vientos is literally your father, and that's okay. It's fine. Like, daddy's strength is great. Just lose especially since you guys have the most losses in any professional organization in America. You think you would be able to handle losing better, more gracefully. So I know I shouldn't expect anything from the city of Philadelphia, but like, I don't know. Guys, just do better. Just do better. Not everyone's the Astros. Like, it's like like what we're banging on microphones in the outfield? Is that how we're we're beating everybody?
We are. We hit the microphones when Alec Bowman's going to make an out. Unfortunately, they've just been hitting it all the time. But I by the way, I think it's hilarious that they've gotten to the point where we're being accused of cheating because it almost excites me. I'm like, oh god, we're good again. We're good. This is real. They think we're cheating. I like this. This is fun. We talked about this going into Friday, but Jonah Tong is debuting on Friday night. I talked about stories of McLean, like development wise, in terms of the idea of, okay, we took a reliever and turned him into a 6-pitch starter. I also just love stories in baseball. I talk about this stuff a lot. Jonah Tong is a Chinese Canadian pitcher. Right. I mean, like, I just think that the idea of this, like, Jonah Reed, Tinchi, Matthew Tong, the Canadian cannon from Markham. I've got some family in Markham, so they know the school he went to. I know the Ty up there knows where that area is. For me, it's just kind of cool. Like, we have a Canadian Chinese pitcher about to make his debut with expectations for the Mets. I love humanitarian and moments and stories here. Jonah Tong has turned out to be such a lovely person, and hopefully he's just as good a pitcher as he is a human being. I think this is just fun and ridiculous, and I love diversity things. So good on the Mets, good on Jonah Tong. I wish you the best of luck against the Marlins. Go out there and shove, and let's make sure people don't have to turn around and reference things from 35 years ago to act like the Mets can't develop prospect pitching anymore. Things are a little bit different now in this side of the woods, so I'm pretty happy about that much. And on that note, speaking for myself, speaking for Peter and for Ash, another episode of the New York Power Hour is in the books. We thank you all for tuning in tonight and for listening later on if you chose to do so. Remember to follow us on YouTube, thebestdamnsports.com. Liking and subscribing is free, and we will love you forever for it. Thank you all for what you do. Have a good rest of your night or your day if you're listening tomorrow. Take care.